Hey guys, welcome to our review of Kamen Rider Amazons or Amazon Riders, episode 8! I'm your host, the Frozen Stratos. Here with me today we have...
The Cinder Blaze.
And surprise guest Makotoa.
Yeah, welcome back.
Okay, I guess we're going for different little...
we flubbed the recording of the watch-along, so we've had to re-record. We haven't I don't think we've, gotten to this. If we have, it's, old stuff. But Michael's here. We just got done watching it. Let's start with Michael, because he just went in cold. What did you think going in, and how in the dark do you feel, having started it in episode 8?
I think you mean how in the green do I feel?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean.
It was very green, and it kind of gave this feeling of blandness,
yeah,
and colorlessness.
Mm-hmm.
Not the green life green. It's just like I don't know.
A teal, like a sort of teal feeling.
It's not.
I don't know. Either way, Alex and I have had thoughts brewing on this episode for so long. And I feel like the major issue of this episode specifically is every single thing around the guy in the running gear who turns out to sadly be a human and they can't kill him. That also somehow means that you can't defend yourself when he's attacking you. That somehow means your battle training, your fighting skills all sort of get nullified because this one guy's just a human.
Yeah, and I feel like that was probably... it's been a common theme throughout Kamen Rider Amazons. A lot of their execution for their ideals is so awful. What they were trying to go for in this episode was to create this whole juxtaposition. Now that Amazons is actually deciding okay, I'm going to be fighting. I'm going to actually fight. Now we have to find out what's the next step. Okay, what is he actually going to fight? So we have the juxtaposition of two types of characters. One is a human character who is a known murderer, and then we have an Amazon who does not want to eat people. I feel like for the Amazon who didn't want to eat people, we wrapped it up pretty quickly, so it wasn't really that much of an issue. But for the person who was a murderer, having being pit up against probably the two strongest fighters of the Extermination Squad, and for him to kind of subdue them both, even though we all kind of know that they can probably get out of that situation pretty easily, but for the plot's sake, they're just forced into a really stupid situation. It just kind of killed a lot of the gravity of the situation. So that was probably the worst thing about this episode.
I had no idea what was going on, but I still thought it was all horrible and dumb.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, we also told him beforehand that this show was hard to get through, and we said it in Ultraman. We'd rather watch Ultraman than this, and we're not too vocal about how
I can see why
Ultraman. Yeah, this it's not good. It's not funny good, and I won't just keep hating on it. We have reasons, and it all again, like Alex was saying, that sort of dissonance between the power scaling, and not just that, for me, it was a lot of the blocking, because the way you can execute this and the way you can simply execute certain scenes can all be fixed by not showing. This show decides they want to explicitly show you, all right, we've got NR, TV NR, no rating. We can go balls to the walls gore. So let's dive right into that. But the problem is, if you don't leave a lot of those gory aspects up to, you to interpret, a lot of like horror movies sort of key into like not showing you some of those things, because then you sort of get that idea that's, oh, something bad's happening. But when you try that with let's just do the scene where the dude's just wailing on her. None of the hits landed. You didn't even frame it to make it work, and it just made the scene and it seemed overly drawn out. And there are so many different ways that you could have done this to have made it more of an effective scene. I don't like how we got there, and I also don't like what we ended up with because of it. So ultimately, like, nothing worked.
Yeah, and like, I will give the show some credit. Like, I know what they were trying to go for. Like, this guy's a deranged lunatic, and for him to kind of have like that whole, kind of not nervous tick, but just that like impulsive thing to kind of just like keep on destroying things. Like, I think he does mention it later on in the episode when he's just like hitting the mole Amazon guy on the extermination squad. He just likes breaking things, right? So for that, like, it was part of his character, and I guess they wanted to show like how he just likes, like, they want to show that destructive kind of tendencies within him. But like, you can't just show him like trying to punch and not hit anything. Like, it just loses all the impact in that one scene. And I think you were kind of like talking about earlier, where you just don't show us and like have our imagination to fill in the scenes for us. I feel like that would have been like, that's powerful in some situations. And in this scene, it had the potential to work by actually showing it. If they actually did show the like gore, if they actually did show like people actually getting hit, it would have been like this kind of like gruesome, like brutal thing. And since that's been like a overall theme of Kamen Rider Amazon, as opposed to like the more showy, like modern Kamen Riders on TV, like you have to actually go the extra mile to kind of show that. You can't just like half-ass it like they did in this.
I want to say that none of this is done tastefully. That's my experience from this. Like, between her getting pummeled on the ground like that, and just the angle sucking, and then the meaty punches that just don't sound like they match at all, or even in like other parts like other parts of the show where someone was getting hit by something, like even the Amazon looking dude was getting hit by the pole. It was just these sounds that just didn't sound like they fit, but it was just there because it's like, oh, we've got that edgy, no rating, so we can get away with like the really gory sounds, but they don't fit. It's just not working. It's garbage.
And that's indicative of a big problem for this series as a whole, because every time we hear those sounds and we see, oh yeah, the dude's like behind, or like he's in front of the camera like munching on someone, and then all we see is the scrape and lick situation. It doesn't,
just because you can help. Doesn't mean you should.
Well, no. Doesn't mean you should. Though, like the sounds to me, like I'd argue that those are some of the best parts of, like, in terms of making it effective, and they're wasted on ineffective direction, ineffective like costume.
They're just not. They don't fit like, where they're put.
Like, the sounds by themselves are good.
Yeah.
They just don't match the scene in the way it's kind of like crafted together. Because like one of the things, like I was talking about during the watch along, where we saw the murderer kind of just like wail on her, is that we saw all the punches not connect. Yeah. If they just like framed it from a different angle, if like it was from like the top of, if it was like from like where their heads are.
The last punch before she passed out was a good angle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we didn't see like most of it, Mm-hmm.
And honestly, the easiest way to fix this is just offload all of this aggression onto the mole guy and have her watch. Why didn't we? Because we already saw that he was a more effective punching bag, and like, are we supposed to now? Because that, having her get pummeled and wailed on amounted to absolute zero. Because at the end, they just brushed it off like it was nothing.
Yeah, it's she. You know, they have these sound effects like bones are cracking, and stuff like that, and like brains are squishing, and then it's just, oh no, you just brush it off, like you said, the scratch and lick type thing. It's
scrape and lick. Dracula, scrape and lick.
Yeah.
It's really. It feels like it's an offense to my intellect, right? How do you say that? It's like this is
I don't know.
Stupid. I don't know what to call this.
Yeah. But let's not like focus too much on the negatives. I know there's a lot of negative in this particular episode, but one thing I could appreciate at least was Jin and his girlfriend kind of bringing realism to both sides of like the episode. For Amazon, when he actually starts, like, he was like in that frenzy and he just like starts going after the human because he's a murderer and all that stuff, and he's like, you know, inherently a bad person. It would make sense for him to, you know, go after that type of person. But, you know, he just like, no, like, when I go out on the field, I have a definitive line between human and Amazon, and I strictly follow that. And, you know, that gives a lot for his character, and it provides like this whole, it provides something for Amazon to actually kind of like contradict, or, you know, it can help develop his character. And on the other side, we also have his girlfriend kind of talking to not his sister, but I guess his sister-like character, the one that wants him to be home all the time. Just kind of introduce some of the brevity of the situation. And, you know, like, you can kind of like feel like she was like kind of slowly realizing that maybe this, like, she didn't know this whole situation that they were all kind of put in, because like a lot of the shady stuff that her mother's up to is kind of like unknown to her, and now that it's like slowly getting revealed, maybe she can have like a more pivotal role. So like those two characters are really helping, and they allow the possibility for growth in those two characters, which I'm kind of looking forward to if it happens.
See, I get you in certain points. Like the reason the Jin scene worked was because the power scaling for both of them was pretty equal, and he was able to sort of force him into that discussion. But where I draw issue is how they present their arguments for each side. Like, oh hey, I as Jin's girlfriend, I like let him, you know, do what he wants, and I think like having them be free and to like be their Amazon selves is what's best for them. And then Haruka, no, that's the guy's name. And then you know, the girlfriend is, no, not girlfriend, the sister. She's like, oh well, I think he should stay home. I think, and having those ideals clash is interesting in theory, but when it's all just dialogue, when it's all just said to you, it's not effective, especially with the Jin stuff, because the Jin stuff was interesting until he started yelling his ideals at him. And then after that, we got the ideals from the squad and guy with tilted helmet. Like, it's all just, we don't let him sort of figure it out for himself. We're given this information, like, clearly. Like, the show talks down to us and lays it out front and center so you don't miss a beat. But, like, there's no subtlety to it. There's no, like, it's just, it feels insulting.
Yeah, but to their defense, they haven't set up that prior situation for there to be a nuanced situation. You know, like, for Jin's side, like, there was never that issue of him, like, kind of fighting humans. Like, we never saw him kind of like ignore it. At least it wasn't brought up to be like made important. Like, maybe he did show it in an earlier episode, but I don't even think that was really the case, because they were just fighting Amazons for their previous episodes. So if you kind of saw a situation like that before, and him kind of acting differently in a way that wouldn't be, you know, kind of like appalling to Haruka or something, and they kind of bringing it up again in this episode, then he wouldn't have to like literally say, "I draw the line here." You know,
But
I mean, like
that's the problem.
it.
That's the problem. We've spent so much time doing so much useless stuff, sitting on scenes that we don't need to, and we could have set this up earlier and have it come to a head here.
Ask a
the
question. I'm sorry. Has the protagonist done anything significant, like
he ate a
landed
McDonald's sandwich.
up till now? Like, has he done anything like physically significant, or has he just had his butt handed to him this whole time?
Oh no, like he's been doing some pretty cool stuff. It's just, you know.
Okay. Was it just this episode where he just looks like a pathetic loser?
No, he always looks like that pathetic loser when he's.
But there are just even more pathetic losers, following in his wake.
We're trashing it a little bit too hard, but I don't know. I really feel like this is probably the episode where a lot of the flaws and Kamen Rider Amazons are really biting into the ass really hard. And because like it was going on an upward trend, and then this episode happened, and it's kind of like
reminds me of how the monster was doing that to that random girl. Just
eating that booty like groceries.
That's what you said. And now that I actually understood what you said, that is god awful, dude.
Thank you. But honestly, this I feel like this review is more cathartic for Alex and I, because we've had to watch this so many times, and we finally crested that well, we're done with this episode, and we don't have to ever watch it ever again. It will forever haunt us, but we will never have to relive that torment in its entirety. But you can, because you can watch the watch along with us and watch us slowly die. I think that just about does it for us. If you like this, what's wrong?
Gas.
Huh? Gas? Okay.
Yeah.
If you like this episode, hit that like button and subscribe. If you want to hear more fun, you know what? Dislike it, because a lot of people like Amazons, and I want to know why. What about this show makes you like it? Because I don't understand. Keep it juicy.
Yeah.
Later.
Come on, no. The second time, it was like right here, and I'm like, nah, I'm going back home.
So what'd you say to Jordan?
I thought you'd have forgotten about that.
I didn't know any. Wait.